early than the Saturday morning program. They're doing it in the temple, but normally they do it here in Concord for the new bhaktas. Sansargava Nalaliha Tranaya Karunya Ghana Ghanatvam Prakatsatalyana Gunadharvasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditramagyan Manasorasena Romanchakampa Shutarangabhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Grahara Ananityananda Shingaratan Mandira Marjanaya Yuktasya Bhaktam Sayunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Sadatripta Hari Bhakta Sangha Vitreva Tritim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Madhavayaurapara Madhurya Lila Gunarupanama Pratikshana Swadanlolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Nikunja Yuno Yayudhirashaniya Tatrajidakshati Vavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Sakshadharitvena Samasta Shastre Udastabha Gritaiva Sadvi Kintu Prabhurya Priya Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasada Bhagavati Kutopi Jayastu Vanspasya Yashastri Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishaya Bhutale Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaura
તારીને જય શ્રી કૃષ્ણ ચૈતન્ય પ્રભુ નિત્યાનંદ શ્રી અદ્વૈત શિવ સદિ ગૌરભક્તવૃંદ જય શ્રી કૃષ્ણ ચૈતન્ય પ્રભુ નિત્યાનંદ શ્રી અદ્વૈત ગદાધર શિવ સદિ ગૌરભક્તવૃંદ હરે કૃષ્ણ હરે કૃષ્ણ Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namaste Narasimhaya Ladadadayini Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Shilakam Kanakalaye Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha Vahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha Narsimha Madhim Sharanam Prapade Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakham Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Shri Krishna Jaya Narahari 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 Jaya Narahari Vrindai tu Sri Vyai Priyai Keshavacham Vishnu Satyavati Namo Namo Vrindai tu Sri Vyai Priyai Keshavacham Vishnu Bhakti Devi Satyavati Namo Namo Vrindai tu Sri Vyai Priyai Keshavacham Vishnu Bhakti Devi Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namo Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Abhilasi Sharanalay Tara Vancha Purna Kripa Kari Tare Shanti Pradakshina Pade Pade Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahma Kani Cha Tani Tani Mana Shanti Pradakshina Pade Pade Yani Cha Papani Brahma Kani Cha Tani Tani Prana Shanti Pradakshina Pade Pade Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Vrinda Devi Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Vrinda Tulsi Devi Jaya Priya Kesava Sacha Krishna Bhakti Vrinda Devi Vrinda Tulsi Devi Jaya Kesava Sacha Krishna Bhakti Vrinda Devi Jaya Namo Vrinda Tulsi Devi Jaya Priya Kesava Sacha Krishna Bhakti Vrinda Devi Jaya Namo
Yes, go.
You are not Balaram.
Yes.
You think from the internet.
Okay.
You want to read?
Yes, go on. Yes.
So you're getting the dreams, Lord Balaram's like Hirosh. The appearance day of Lord Balaram, the personality of Godhead, which first expansion is Lord Krishna. Krishna personality of Godhead. As Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada dharmasya granir bhavati bharata vittanam dharmasya atmanam srijamiham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, I will descend in a bar. In a predominant rise of religion, at that time I descend myself. Krishna says, Srijamyaham, I manifest myself. He doesn't take birth like an ordinary human being, but manifests himself in his original spiritual form. For what purpose? Paritrana sadhunam vinashaya dushritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Quote, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. Gita 4.8. He manifests himself to protect the devotees, annihilate the demons, and reestablish the principles of religion. In every sphere of activity in the mature world there is deterioration. Everything in the mature world declines. A new house, for example, is very nice, but it gradually deteriorates, and eventually when too old it has to be rebuilt. In the same way, our performance of spiritual duties deteriorates, whether we are individuals, families, communities, or a society. And so the Lord comes repeatedly to reestablish religious practice. He appears in order to establish religious principles, dharma, but over time, religious practice declines, and so he manifests again and again. We all know how prone we are to allow our practice to deteriorate. Thus, on auspicious occasions like today, Lord Baron's day, we can pray to the Lord to manifest Himself and help us to become reestablished in our religious principles and practice. What Krishna said in the two verses quoted from the Bhagavad Gita is explained elaborately in the Bhagavad. When the earth was overburdened by demonic rulers who had amassed large military forces armed with deadly weapons to wage war for personal gain, Lord, the chief of the demigods in this universe, approached the shore of the ocean of Mila. There, accompanied by Lord Shiva and other celestial beings, worshipped Lord Vishnu, the supreme God of all gods. In response, Lord Vishnu imparted instructions, which Lord Brahma in turn conveyed to the demigods. He told them that very soon the Lord would appear on earth to diminish the burden of the world, and that the demigods, to assist him, would take birth in the Yadu dynasty. Lord Brahma further stated that Lord Balaram, who is also known as Sankarshan, would have preceded the Lord and serve him in every respect. Vasudeva Kalayana Sahasrabhadana Agrato Bhagavata Devo Hare Priya Chikirishya. Bhagavatam 10.1-24. The foremost manifestation of Krishna is Sankarshan, who is known as Ananta. He is the origin of all nations within the material world. Previous to the appearance of Lord Krishna, this origin Sankarshan will appear as Balaram, just to please the Supreme Lord Krishna in his transcendental pastimes. Lord Brahma told them, as well that Yoga Maya, the personal potency of the Lord, would also appear and assist the Lord in his mission. Immediately preceding the appearance of Krishna and Balaram, Vasudeva, a great devotee in the Yadu dynasty, wedded Devaki, another pure devotee. After their marriage, Vasudeva mounted his chariot with his bride to return home, and Devaki's brother, Kamsa, who is his sister, took the reins of the horses to drive the chariot. Along the way, Kamsa heard a voice from an invisible source, which told him, "You fool, the 8th child of the woman you are carrying." Kamsa, a great demon, became enraged and was ready to kill his own sister on the day of her marriage. But Vasudeva intervened and appealed to him to desist. He said, "How could a qualified person like you kill a woman, your own sister, on the occasion of her marriage? In any case, one day you will die, and in your next life you will have to suffer the reactions to your present activities." Still, Kamsa was so shameless and cruel that he persisted, and Vasudeva, to save his wife from imminent death, told him, "You have nothing to fear from Devaki. According to the omen, it is her son who will kill you. So I promise to deliver all her sons who are the cause of your fear into your hands." Kamsa, having faith in Vasudeva's word, was pacified. Still, he imprisoned Vasudeva and Devaki, and year after year, as the children were born, Vasudeva dutifully delivered them to Kamsa, who mercilessly killed them. Now we shall read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, by the demigods. Gaccha Devi Brajam Bhadre Gopa Gobir Alankritam Rohini Vasudevasya Bharyaste Nanda Gokule Anyascha Kamsa Sambigna Vivareshu Vasantihi. Translation. The Lord ordered Yogamaya, "O my potency, who are worshipable for the entire world, and whose nature is to bestow good fortune upon all living entities, go to Vraj, where there live many colored men and their wives. In that very beautiful land, where many cows reside, Rohini, the wife of Vasudeva, is living at the home of Nanda Maharaj. Other wives of Vasudev are also living there incognito because of fear of Kamsa. Please go there. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Nanda Gokul, the residence of King Nanda, was itself very beautiful. But when Yoga was ordered to go there and approach the devotees with fearlessness, it became even more beautiful and safe. Because Yoga Maya had the ability to create such an atmosphere, the Lord ordered her to go to Nanda Gokul. Comment by Viraj Swami. King Kamsa was such a demon that he was performing all sorts of atrocities. Vasudeva was afraid for the safety of his wives. In Vedic culture, the Kshatriyas were allowed to marry more than one wife. Now that idea seems a bit foreign, odd, but it had its purpose in Vedic civilization.
More dollars. Yeah.
The Kshatriyas were powerful. They could maintain many wives. But as predicted in Srimad Bhagavatam, as the present age of Kali progresses or deteriorates, a husband will have to struggle just to maintain one wife, one family. And if he's somewhat able to do so nicely, he is considered a great success in life. Previously, people were more qualified. They were more opulent. The Kshatriyas could have more than one wife, though Lord Ramachandra took Ekapatni Vrat, a vow to accept only one wife, Sita Devi. Vasudeva had more than one wife, but he was responsible. He didn't want any harm to befall any of them, and he arranged for their protection. Vasudeva and Devaki had relatives, who were also family friends in Gokul, Nanda and Yashoda. And so Vasudeva placed one of his wives, Rohini, under the care of Nanda and Yashoda. And after Balaram had entered the womb of Devaki, Lord Krishna ordered Yogamaya to transfer him from the womb of Devaki. Text 8. Devakya jai garvam sesakyam dhamamakam krisharohanya udhare saniveshaya. Within the womb of Devaki is my partial plenary expansion known as Sankarshan or Shesha. Without difficulty, transfer him into the womb of Rohini. Purport. The first plenary expansion of Krishna is Baladev, also known as Sesha. The Sesha incarnation of the Supreme Personality of God supports the entire universe, and the eternal mother of this incarnation is Mother Rohini. Quote, because I'm going into the womb of Devaki, the Lord told Yogamaya, the Shesha incarnation has already gone there and made full arrangements so that I may live there. Now he should enter the womb of Rohini, his eternal mother. Unquote. In this connection, one may ask how the personality of God, who is always situated transcendentally, could enter the womb of Devaki, which had previously been entered by the 6 asuras, the Sadgarbhas. Does this mean that Sadgarbhasuras were equal to the transcendental body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The following answer is given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Comment. As promised, Vasudeva delivered Devaki's first 6 sons to Kamsa, who killed them one after the other. They were actually the 6 asuras who, because of events from their past life, had taken birth in Devaki's womb to be killed by Kamsa. So the question is, Krishna is going to enter the womb of Devaki. Does that mean he is on the same level as these asuras who took birth from their womb and were killed by Kamsa? Marty explains. Purport continues. Entire creation, as well as its individual parts, extension of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, even though he enters the material world, he does not do so. This is explained by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita 9:4-5. Maiyatam idam sarvam avyakmurtina Matani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavasita nachamatstani bhutani yame yogame karam uthabrin utasto mamatma bhuta bhavana. Comment. The idea is that the Lord is everywhere within His creation, but at the same time is not there. This appears to be contradictory. The contradiction is resolved, however, when we understand the Lord in His original form as Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan is not in a material creation. He remains aloof in His divine abode, enjoying sublime pastimes with His loving devotees. Still, by His expansion as the Super Soul, the Paramatma, He pervades His creation. Pure devotee is always transcendentally situated, executing 9 different processes of Bhakti Yoga. Thus situated in devotional service, a devotee, although in the material world, is not in the material world. Yet a devotee always fears, quote, because I am associated with the material world, so many contaminations affect me. Unquote. Therefore he is always alert in fear, which gradually diminishes his material association. As stated earlier, Yogamaya appeared in Gokul to create fearlessness, freedom from fear of the attacks of demons. Yet a pure devotee is always afraid of material contamination. Once, Srila Prabhupada gave a class at Bhaktivedanta Manor in which he told the audience, the difference between you and me is that you can fall down, but I cannot fall down. After the class, Srila Prabhupada was praying in front of the deities, and one disciple asked him, why were you praying? And Prabhupada replied, I was praying that I may never fall down. The disciple responded, but in your talk you said that you can never fall down. And Prabhupada replied, yes, because I'm always praying never to fall down. Therefore, I can never fall down. So, we should pray, we should always be afraid of the material energy, Maya, of being deluded by Maya, and being diverted from the true path of Krishna consciousness. Purport continued. Symbolically, Mother Devaki's constant fear of Kamsa was purifying her. A pure devotee should always fear association, and in this way all the asuras in the material association will be killed, as the Satgarbha Suras were killed by Kamsa. Comment. Especially devotees in the Grihastha ashram may have to associate with the material energy to earn money to maintain their families. Like it or not, they may have to associate with materialistic people. And there's always a danger that by their associating with materialistic people, their consciousness will be affected. So they should be afraid of material association. Of course, circumstantially, we have to interact with such people, and we may do so as people normally interact in the workplace. But internally, we should be conscious that if we associate with them too much in a wrong way, it can affect us, and we can become weak in our determination to progress in Krishna consciousness. We may start to compromise in different ways, which will weaken us even more. Concluded. It is said that from the mind, Marichi appears. In other words, Marichi is an incarnation of the mind. Marichi has 6 sons: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya. Lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in pure devotion. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Bhaktir evainam darshan. Only bhakti can bring one in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared from the womb of Devaki, and therefore Devaki symbolically represents Bhakti, and Kamsa symbolically represents material fear. When a pure devotee always fears material association, his real position of Bhakti is manifested. and he naturally becomes uninterested in enjoyment. When the 6 sons of marriage are killed by such fear, and one is freed from material contamination, within the womb of Bhakti, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears. Thus, the 7th pregnancy of Devaki signifies the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After the 6 sons, Kama, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarja are killed, the Sesha incarnation creates a suitable situation for the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, when one awakens is natural Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna appears. This is the explanation given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Comment. There are different stages of advancement in devotional service, and when one is completely purified, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is revealed within the heart. That purified stage is called Vasudeva or Shuddha Sattva. It is the same name as that of Krishna's father, Vasudeva, because Krishna first appeared in the purified mind of Vasudeva, and then from the mind of Vasudeva, he was transferred into the purified mind and the womb of Devaki. So, it is possible that the Lord will manifest himself to a devotee who is sincere in the practice of devotional service. And before he manifests himself fully, as he did for Vasudeva and Devaki, and for Nanda and Yashoda, he manifests himself as the holy name, as we all experience when we try to chant offenselessly. As Holy Scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, or Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, as Holy Dham, Srimad Mayapur or Puri, as the deity, and in the hearts and of his pure devotees. Text 9. Attahamam sabhayam yakyatam subhe pasyamam nashodhayam nandapatnyam yasi. O all auspicious Yogamaya, I shall then appear with my full 6 opulences as the son of Devaki, and you will appear as the daughter of Mother Yashoda, the queen of Maharaj Nanda. Comment. This is the history. Balaram or Shesha first entered the womb of Devaki as her 7th son, but by the arrangement of Krishna through the agency of Yogamaya, he was transferred to the womb of Brahini in Gokul. And thus it appeared that Devaki had a miscarriage. But it is Shesha's service to arrange for Krishna's comfort, and so he entered her womb first and created a favorable situation in which Lord Krishna could reside. We always see pictures of Lord Vishnu with Shesha, who acts as the Lord's umbrella and throne. Shesha expends himself in so many ways to facilitate the pleasure and comfort of the Lord. After being transferred to the womb of Rani, his eternal mother, Balaram to birth of Gokul. His stay within the womb of Devaki was just a temporary arrangement to create a favorable situation. For the duration of their infancy and youth, Krishna and Balaram enjoyed together in Gokul, in Braj. Then, at the age of 16, they went to Mathura to participate in a wrestling match arranged by Kamsa. Ultimately, Krishna killed Kamsa. Balaram did not return to Vrindavan then, and he passed to Mathura and Dwarka. Because Krishna and Balaram had not yet received the proper formal education, Vasudeva and Devaki arranged for them to study under a guru, Sandipani Muni, from whom they learned 64 different arts and sciences. And then they went on to rule Mathura and finally Dwarka. It is, one would say, a situation that Krishna was actually the son of Vasudeva, who was raised by Nanda and Yashoda, and never really spent time with it from the parents who had raised him, and he didn't see them again for many, many years. After Krishna and Balaram left Vrindavan, the Brajavasis were plunged into an ocean of separation. Their only business was crying for Krishna and Balaram. Of course, their crying was not like material crying. Theirs was transcendental ecstasy. And in that separation, they were experiencing association. Still, they were separated, and many years later, when Krishna was living in royal opulence in Dwarka, he went to Kurukshetra for a solar eclipse to perform sacrifices and give in charity, as advised in Shastra. At Kurukshetra, there was a great reunion, not only between Krishna and Balaram and their friends, Vrindavan, but also between Vasudeva and Devaki, and Nanda and Yashoda. Even Krishna's various wives and Draupadi. Their meetings and interactions with each other are very instructive for us. How devotees relate to each other, how they think, and how they feel. So here's from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 82. Krishna meets the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Text 31 and 32.
Krishna book.
From Krishna book, yeah. Okay. So we're reading the chapter 18. This is called the killing of demon Pralambasur. After extinguishes the devastating fire, Krishna, surrounded by his relatives, friends, cows, calves, and bulls, and glorified by his friends singing, again entered Vrindavan, which is always full of cows. While Krishna and Balaram were enjoying life in Vrindavan in the midst of the coward boys and girls, the season gradually changed to summer. The summer season in India is not very much welcome because of the excessive heat. Everyone was pleased because summer there appeared just like spring. This was possible only because Lord Krishna and Balaram, who were all controllers, even of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, were residing there. In Vrindavan there are many falls which are always pouring water, and the sound is so sweet that it covers the sound of the crickets. And because the water flows all over, the forest always looks very green and beautiful. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were never disturbed by the scorching heat of the sun or the high summer temperatures. The lakes of Vrindavan are surrounded by grasses, and various kinds of lotus flowers bloom there, such as the Kalara, Kanja, and Udpala. The hair blowing in Vrindavan carries aromatic pollen of the lotus flowers. When the particles of water from the waves of the Yamuna, the lakes, and the waterfalls touch the bodies of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they automatically felt a cooling effect. Therefore, they were practically undisturbed by the summer season. Vrindavan is a nice place. Flowers are always blooming, and there are even various kinds of decorated deer. Birds chirping, peacocks are crowing and dancing, and bees are humming. The cuckoos fare snugly in 5 kinds of tubes. Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure, blowing his flute, accompanied by his elder brother Balaram and the other cowherd boys and the cows, entered the beautiful forest of Vrindavan to enjoy the atmosphere. They walked into the midst of the newly grown leaves of trees whose flowers resemble peacock feathers. They were garlanded by those flowers and decorated with saffron chalk. Sometimes were dancing, singing, and sometimes wrestling with one another. While Krishna danced, some of the cowherd boys sang on flutes. Some bugled on horns or clapped their hands, praising Krishna. Brother, you are dancing very nicely. Actually, all these boys were demigods, descended from the higher planets to assist Krishna in his pastimes. The demigods garbed and dressed in the dress of the coward. The demigods, garbed in the dress of the coward boys, were encouraging Krishna in his dancing. Just as one artist encouraged another with praise. Up to that time, neither Balaram nor Krishna had undergone the hanging ceremony. Therefore, their hair was clustered like crow's feathers. They were always playing hide and seek with their boyfriends and jumping or fighting with them. Sometimes, while his friends were chanting and dancing, Krishna would praise them. My friends are dancing and sing very nicely. The boys played a ball with fruits such as Baal and Amalaka. They played blind man's buff, challenging and touching one another. Sometimes they imitated the forest deer and various kinds of birds. They joked with one another by imitating croaking frogs, and they enjoyed swinging underneath the trees. Sometimes they would play amongst themselves. Sometimes they play amongst themselves like a king and subjects. And this Balaram and Krishna, along with all their friends, played all kinds of sports. Fine trees and excellent gardens filled with fruits and flowers. While the engaged in their transcendental pastimes, a great demon of the name Pralambasura entered their company, desiring to kidnap both Balaram and Krishna. Although Krishna played the part of a cowherd boy, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could understand everything, past, present, and future. So when Pralambasura entered their company, Krishna began to think how to kill the demon, but externally he was a friend. Quote, you have come to take our time. And call all his friends, ordered them. Now we shall play in pairs. We shall challenge one another in pairs. With this boys assembled together, some of them took the side of Krishna, and some of them took the side of Balaram, and they arranged to play in duel. The defeated members in duel fighting had to carry the victorious members on their backs as a horse carries its master. They began playing, and at the same time tended the cows as they proceeded through the Bandiravan forest. The party of Balaram, accompanied by Sridharma and Vrishava, came out victorious, and Krishna's party had to carry them on their backs through the Bandiravan forest. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, being defeated, had to carry Sridharma on his back, and Bhagsena carried Vrishava. Imitating their play, Pralambasura, who appeared there as a cowherd boy, carried Balaram on his back. Pralambasura was the greatest of the demons, and he had calculated that Krishna was the most powerful of the cowherd boys. In order to avoid the competition, Pralambasura carried Balaram far away. The demon was undoubtedly very strong and powerful, but he was carrying Balaram, who is compared to a mountain. Therefore, he began to feel the burden, and thus he assumed his real form. When he appeared in his real feature, he was decorated with a golden helmet and earrings and looked just like a cloud with lightning carrying the moon. Balaram observed the demon's body expanding up to the limits of the clouds, his eyes dazzling like blazing fire, and his mouth flashing with sharpened teeth. At first, Balaram was surprised by the demon's appearance, and he began to wonder, how is it that all of a sudden this carrier has changed in every way? This is 640. Chapter 667. While Shukadev Goswami continued to speak on the transcendental pastimes and characteristics of Lord Krishna, King Parikshit, upon hearing him, became more and more enthusiastic and wanted to hear further. Shukadev Goswami next narrated the story of Dvivida, the gorilla who was killed by Lord Balaram. This gorilla was a great friend of Bhamasura or Narakasura, who was killed by Krishna in connection with his kidnapping 16,000 princesses from all over the world. Dvivida was the minister of King Sugriva. His brother Mainda was also a very powerful gorilla king. When Dvivida gorilla heard the story of his friend Bhamasura's being killed by Lord Krishna, he planned to create mischief throughout the country in order to avenge the death of Bhamasura. His first business was to set fires in villages, towns, and industrial and mining places, as well as in the residential quarters of mercantile men who were busy dairy farming and protecting cows. Sometimes he would uproot a big mountain and tear it to pieces. In this way, he created great disturbances all over the country, especially in the province of Katwar. The city of Dwarka was situated in this Katwar province, and because Lord Krishna used to live in this city, Dvivida specifically made it its target of disturbance. Dvivida was as powerful as 10,000 elephants. Sometimes he would go to the seashore, and with his powerful hands he would create so much disturbance in the sea that he would flood the neighboring cities and villages. Often he would go to the hermitages of great saintly persons and sages and cause a great disturbance by smashing their beautiful gardens and orchards. Not only did he create disturbances in that way, but sometimes he would pass urine and stool in their sacred sacrificial arenas. He would thus pollute the whole atmosphere. He also kidnapped both men and women, taking them away from their residential places to the caves of the mountains. After putting them within the caves, he would close the entrance with large chunks of stone, like the bringi insect, which arrests and carries away many flies and other insects and puts them within the holes of the trees when it lives. Thus, Dvivida regularly defied the law and order of the country. Not only that, but he would sometimes pollute the female members of many aristocratic families by forcibly raping them. While creating such great disturbances all over the country, sometimes he heard very sweet musical sounds from Raivataka mountain, and so he entered that mountainous region. There he saw Lord Balaram in the midst of many beautiful young girls, enjoying their company while singing and dancing. Dvivida became captivated by the beauty of Lord Balaram's body, whose every feature was very beautiful, decorated as he was with the garland of lotus flowers. Similarly, all the young girls present, dressed and garlanded with flowers, exhibited much beauty. Lord Balaram seemed fully intoxicated from drinking the Varuni beverage, and his eyes appeared to be rolling in a drunken state. Lord Balaram appeared just like the king of the elephants in the midst of many she-elephants.
This gorilla by the name Dvivida could climb up into the trees and jump from one branch to another. sometimes he would jerk the branches, creating a particular type of sound, kill kill, so that Lord Balram was greatly distracted from the pleasing atmosphere. Sometimes Dvivida would come before the woman and exhibit different types of caricatures. By nature, young women are apt to enjoy everything with laughter and joking. And when the gorilla came before them, they did not take him seriously but simply laughed at him. However, the gorilla was so rude that even in the presence of Balram, he began to show the lower part of his body to the woman. And sometimes he would come forward to show his teeth while moving his eyebrows. He disrespected the woman, even in the presence of Balram. Lord Balram's name suggests not only that he is very powerful, but that he takes pleasure in exhibiting extraordinary strength. So he took a stone and threw it at Dvivida. The gorilla, however, artfully avoided being struck by the stone. In order to insult Balram, the gorilla took away the earthen pot in which Varuni was kept. Dvivida, being thus intoxicated with his limited strength, began to tear off all the valuable clothes worn by Balram and the accompanying young girls. He was so puffed up that he thought Balram could not do anything to chastise him, and he continued to offend Balram and his companions. When Lord Balram saw the disturbances created by the gorilla and heard that he had already performed many mischievous activities all over the country, he became very angry and decided to kill him. Immediately he took his club in his hands. The gorilla could understand that now Balram was going to attack him. To counteract Balram, he immediately uprooted a big oak tree, and with great force he came and struck Lord Balram's head. Lord Balram, however, immediately caught hold of the big tree and remained undisturbed, just like a great mountain. To retaliate, he took his club named Sunanda and hit Gorilla with it, severely injuring his head. Currents of blood flowed from the gorilla's head with a great force, but the stream of blood simply enhanced his beauty. Like a stream of liquid magnesis come out of a great mountain. The striking of Balram's club did not even slightly disturb him. On contrary, he immediately uprooted another big oak tree and after clipping off its leaves, again struck Balram's head with it. But Balram, with the help of his club, tore the tree to pieces. Since the gorilla was very angry, he took another tree in his hands and struck Lord Balram's body. Again, Lord Balram tore the tree to pieces and the fighting continued. Each time the gorilla would bring out a big tree to strike Balram, Lord Balram would tear the tree to pieces by striking off his club. And the gorilla Dvivida would clutch another tree from another direction and strike and again attack Balram in the same way. As a result of this continuous fighting, the forest became treeless. When no more trees were available, Dvivida took help from the hills and threw large pieces of stone like rainfall upon the body of Balram. Lord Balram, in a great sporting mood, began to smash those big pieces of stone into mere pebbles. The gorilla, being bereft of all the trees, and since the gorilla was striking him with his hands, Lord Balram would not strike him back. with his own weapon and the club or the plow.
Now it's fine.
Boga?
Prabhupada was saying you can go through the kitchen. It's much faster. You know where they go?
Yeah.
Where? Boga.
Boga, yeah, you can put
Where?
each one in front of the like the deities.
Wonderful. But there's so many.
Yeah, so put one here,
The Prabhupada.
one here, one here.
One for Nishida, one here,
Yeah.
one for Gloria time.
Yeah.
That's it. You guys going to the altar is
Laptop is here.
I'm here.